then we're going to. Okay, this is the first and second classes. This recording will be the first class for the chaplaincy, and I'm going to start with a slideshow that you all can watch as I narrate on this class. So welcome to law enforcement chaplaincy. First lesson is to learn how to spell chaplain. The whole world gets this wrong. You can see it's got a CHAPLAIN. People tend to leave off the A. So learn that one. Get yourself uniformed. I noticed that the Glenn County Sheriff's Chaplaincy already has some uniforms. We'll talk about uniforms in a minute. Anyway, welcome to this training for 2023. I am Chico Police Chaplain Peter Hansen. I serve as the minister, the rector of St. Augustine of Canterbury Anglican Church here in Chico. You can always get a hold of me via cell and text on 530-519-2131. And my email, you'll see two emails going out from me. One that's a church email, which is fine, or fatherhansen@gmail.com. That works out. By the time we get done, I'll be very close to having served 25 years as a police chaplain for Chico PD. That's one of the first chaplains that they had. Anyway, welcome. First things first. I'm going to show you my uniform that's on right now. That is a knitted shirt. They have these available. This is what officers are wearing these days, which is a comfortable shirt that does not have to have the ballistic vest underneath it, but worn over when needed. When you go out in the field, the ballistic vest goes inside of this carrier, which is just a cloth kind of a vest, but the ballistic material, the Kevlar, fits inside of this thing and makes it heavier and hotter, but it's much less hot when it's worn outside rather than when it's worn inside your thing. I'll talk about what our equipment is, but and our uniforms. Chico and other departments are going to be different. You all will have to determine what uniforms you have, but this is considered B uniform. It's what we go out in the field with, this gray shirt and a black t-shirt, black pants, black shoes, and socks. In addition, we also have jackets to wear for cool and also cold conditions. We also have an A class uniform, which is just excuse me a second. I'm communicating with our and I'm sorry for this. This is just unfortunate. Let me back off and make sure I got the communication. I don't want to miss one trainee. It should have gone. Oh, let's see. Just a minute. Sorry about this, guys. Had to happen the first time. Okay. In a moment, you'll welcome Ken Malone from Orville. Anyway, we're good there. All right. Get back on this. Get back on the shares. Well, I'm going to wait for a second to see if I can get them to pop up. Our uniforms include these. I mentioned. Oh, yeah, that's a good idea, Danny. I've introduced myself, and you mentioned we could introduce one another. Let's see, from left to right, I know it. Why don't you, Brennan, introduce yourself?
Pastor Brennan DeForest, Redeemer Lutheran Church in Chico.
Very good. And Dave Rick, would you tell us who you are and where you serve?
Dave Rick, I'm the pastor of the First United Methodist Church in Willow.
And serving Glenn County. Very good. And Danny?
Yeah, I'm Danny Correo. I'm a teaching pastor at Victory in Christ Church in Orland, and I serve the Glenn County Sheriff's Department. We just started, I mean, brand new within the last 3 or 4 months.
Glad to have you aboard. And Joe? Joseph, are you there? Yeah, maybe you're on mute. Unmute yourself. We're not hearing you very good. Okay. Yeah, Joseph, you're muted. You want to unmute your microphone? We can hear you and see you. You're still muted. Well, we'll skip that. This is technical. We're having problems. But Pastor Jeff, let's meet you.
Yeah, my name is Jeff Seeley, and I'm at Ridge Lifeline Church up in Paradise.
Great to have you aboard. Looks like we lost Joe, but he'll be back. Well, this is bound to happen the first time. Having a little technical difficulties, but we will be there. Anyway, I'm talking about uniforms. We have, there's Joe. And Kenny.
With the butternut squash, where's the Can you guys hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Hey, sorry, I'm in a public place right now. I just had to do a run. My name is Joe Levesque. I'm the Elk Creek Community Bible Church pastor, and I work with Glenn County.
Very, very good. And
I finally made it, Peter.
Ken, you made it. Thank you. I don't know what happened on my lap. I went from a desktop to a laptop, and somewhere between lost your listing as a call out thing, and I regret that terribly. Ken, would you introduce?
I found it in my junk. It was in my junk mail. I don't know why some of my stuff goes to junk mail, but that's what happened. I found it though.
Tell us who you are.
Ken Malone, New Life Church. I pastor here in Orville, also chaplain with Butte County Sheriff.
Good to have you aboard. A lot of fortuitous meetings and stuff. I met with Ken. I've known Ken for years, but from some pastors' prayer summits, but happened to be at an event for security, a symposium, and was seeing Ed Hall, who's the head of the chaplaincy of the Butte County Sheriffs. And I said, I'm going to be doing a training. He said, well, I got a guy here who's ready for training. And I said, bingo. And then just happened to loop Pastor Jeff in through Cameron Kovacs, who I know from the Chico PD, who is now a lieutenant in Paradise, and they got a new Paradise guy. So anyway, we're all here. We're all aboard. We've offered a prayer, and we're heading out into the Netherlands. So let me go back to sharing the screen with the my PowerPoint production here, and go back online. You have your notes now. First of all, the notes that I've given you online have everything I'm going to say. You don't have to take notes. Okay. So
okay.
The notes are already printed out. You can just watch what we have here and participate in it. If we have any noise bleed over or something, just mute yourselves and know that we're just gonna we're being recorded. And there we go. So we're all here. Anyway, I introduced myself, the cell and texter and the written documents that I've given you. Each department has their own uniforms and so forth, and decisions are made there with you and your chief or your liaisons. So as Chico, I'm not going to try to tell you how you dress, but we have a Class A uniform as well, which is what I call the cheap suit. It's a polyester navy blue suit. So top and bottom, and a white shirt and a blue tie. and a place for the badge and a little stitched insignia with your name on it, and the patches with the department in the back there. So anyway, I'm making significant gestures here, and you're not seeing it. You're seeing the my PowerPoint. Anyway, our schedule and time of classes, I sent that out for you. If you have any serious problems getting to it, it's okay, because we're going to have these things posted with YouTube recordings of all the classes online. Your own department arranges for photo IDs, and I'll let you do that with them. I sent out applications. You don't apply to me if you're in another department than Chico. So don't worry about that there, but as a suggested format for your department to see chaplains giving that information, you can just go over that with your liaison. During the course of this class, which is going to span a couple of months, if you can arrange for, if you're not already doing it with your department, a ride-along. Citizen ride-alongs usually run a couple of hours. Chaplain ride-alongs, once you're in your department, can go all day, can go as long as you want, or as long as you can arrange for. But I like
Ours are 4 hours.
that's great. That's long enough. I like to go. My duty day is Thursday day, and I like to go through the morning because that gives me long enough to be with my officer, and it also is kind of a low load time. If you choose to go on Friday night, all you're doing is busting drunks, and that's not going to be a lot of talking time with your officer. But you're going to see a lot of action. So that's what you want. What you want to do. Anything you want to do. Okay. Come on, sweetheart. Okay. The role of a police chaplain. Our way of being in chaplaincy. It's a new culture to you. We come out of the church and we have our own church culture, but we go into the police world. It's their world, and we are in their world, and the rules of their world apply, and not necessarily what our world. I always kind of chuckle at the fact that when I walk in on a group of police officers, they see the chaplain and they all straighten up and they watch their language for about 2 minutes. And then when they realize that you're not sitting there judging them and catching all the F-bombs and being shocked at their behaviors or whatever, they slip right back into it. And then we got to understand that's their world. We don't sit and expect them to adjust to us. We're going to adjust to them. We understand the use of titles is important, at least in an introductory phase when you're dealing with an officer. It's Sergeant this or Lieutenant that. Eventually, if they invite you to use their first name, that's nice. That's how you eventually want to go. But first of all, officer, it works really well. If they go, oh, don't call me officer, call me Jake. Well, that's cool. Then you got that. And then give them a similar familiarity with your own. Say, no, I insist you call me Pastor so-and-so. Would not seem right. We're entering their world, and their rules go over our rules. This is a pastoral role, not a police role. When we get out and among them, great temptation is to become a sort of wannabe cop. And we try to resist that because it's not our role. We're an adjunct to the police. We're for them. We're about doing law enforcement along with them. But we always remember who we are. We're a chaplain, a minister who dresses in a different kind of uniform with them, and we go along there. And as chaplains, we want to be reactive, that is, responsive to things that happen, a crisis response, major emergencies in a public thing, police-related crises, officer-involved shootings, and so forth. Death notifications, death in the home, and accidents. We in Chico, each of us have a call-out day in the week. We got about 7 chaplains right now, so everybody has a day from 7 a.m. to 7 a.m. on Thursday to 7 a.m. Friday. I'm the primary call-out chaplain, and if there's a death notification to make or a death in the home, which we call on 1144, accidents that might need a chaplain, that's what we generally are getting called out to. It's going to involve a death. and we'll go to see the family or the person involved or somebody who cares about the deceased. And that's our primary obligation. There are not a lot of call outs to other kinds of things, though that can happen, like officer involved shootings. There may be a tactical team that we get involved with somewhat, especially if there's critical incident stress management follow-up on an incident that happens in the field. Besides being reactive, that is after a crisis is hit, coming in with a response, we are also proactive. We do ride-alongs. That's not in a crisis, that's just in a normal mode. We're with the officer, we're going through their day with them, or we're making hospital calls. There may be citywide events, especially here in Chico, which is the bigger city in our region. We've had some events annually that were terrifically big and devastating to some extent, like what used to be our Halloween 20 some years ago, where 10 or 20,000 people would invade Chico, get drunk, wear a mask, and be silly, and flood the streets. Our church sits right downtown, and we were surrounded by people who, some of them were hooligans, and they all felt like they were safe because they were wearing masks and they had that courage of a drunk. So it was nuts, and we had to come back with a large, full-scale police response. For the first couple of years, we had up to 700 cops on the streets Halloween night. So it was pretty big. It's not that way right now. It used to also be for Labor Day. And that would involve both our county and Glenn County, because of the river would be the big float, and they'd have 1,000 kids down there on different floating things, and drunk as could be, and just about drowned. They almost had several drownings because they couldn't control themselves. And so chaplains were involved at some places of that, mostly serving the cops and making the cops comfortable and happy, and then letting them deal with the public emergency that they had to go out and do. In Chico, and I don't know about your other towns, but we have the every 15-minute program that's every other year in the high school for seniors and juniors who have a simulated crash site and some talks about drunk-related, alcohol-related injuries and deaths that happen in the road, trying to deter the young people from getting involved in alcohol and driving. It's a pretty effective program. It began in the Chico Police Department 20-something years ago. One of our officers drew it up, and it went nationwide. Hundreds of cities now use this program and make it their own way. Is every 15 minutes happen in any of your high schools out of Chico that you know of? Apparently not.
I know that we're doing it in Butte County, and the last one I did was in Durham.
There was a one in Durham. Okay, Durham has a pretty good high school.
Yeah,
That's cool.
Yeah,
that was earlier this year.
We also do it in book. What was that again?
I said, I think we have one in Wayne County as well.
Okay, good. The invocations at the city councils can be something that we do as police. I know when they have a blank, no public minister volunteering for a particular city council meeting, they'll call on the chaplains, and we'll come in the chaplain's uniform. Our class A's are our suit, and offer up the invocation. There may be police weddings and certainly police funerals that you'll have to come out and do. And you may have established a police officers fellowship, which can be a Christian fellowship. It does not have to be a neutral one spiritually, if you all have that understanding. And then private counseling with cops if they need it. Administrative stuff, we plan the chaplain's programs. We attend departmental meetings. Usually our president will go to the departmental chief of staff kind of meetings and learn what's going on in the department. That way he keeps abreast of it. I used to attend that when I was a chaplain president for 17 years. Now Bud Chauvin does that for us. And then we have regular monthly chaplain meetings where we get together, go over the things happening in the department, plan for future events, and also report. That's kind of an important piece of this because we tell each other the stories in our last ride along or our call out for a suicide or something. And it's good to go through those things because we get to kind of de-stress the event by recounting it and sharing it. And also, if we've had an experience that will help and benefit the other chaplains, we can share those things with everybody. And it's very helpful then to profit from my mistakes if I have to report something I goofed up, and everybody can take a note and say, well, okay, we don't do that again. Then there's in training. We are always training. Right now we're training, but we have continued training for everybody. Locally, we train and remind ourselves on what we've learned. But the ICPC has both regional trainings that happen in the Western region. Region 6 is kind of the west of the United States, California, Arizona, and some other states in the West. They also have, for the International Conference of Police Chaplains, annual training sessions, which are held somewhere in the country. Once it was done in the Bahamas, and I didn't go, but these are fascinating. A week-long training, special things, and you get to ride along with cops from a completely different part of the country. It's a gas. I have ridden with the Michigan State Police or State Patrol, and also the city of Mobile, Alabama cops on one of these. All right, minimum qualifications for a chaplain in a chaplain program. What is called an ecclesiastical covering. That means you're part of a church and you are ordained or licensed as a minister with a church, synagogue, or recognized and accepted religious body. Your department determines that last piece, whether recognized and accepted. You don't do that. I've seldom had to turn back anybody because they didn't have that covering, but you have to define that the minister as being an ordained pastor. The reason being confidentiality. If we can offer confidentiality for the officers that we are serving, then we can be chaplains. If we can't do that, you're not qualified. Author and Mark, sitting at my left here, is going to be, God willing, candidate for ordination. He's taken the training now, but won't be qualified for the chaplaincy until he's ordained. An authorization from the church that you serve as chaplain. So the church is offering you into the department, saying we accept and your program, and we authorize Pastor so-and-so to serve as chaplain as well. Training, of course, is this course and also continuing education. It's also important to be available. If you can't be available, if you're just too busy, God bless you. That's great. But maybe chaplaincy isn't for you. It isn't a lot of time. I haven't had to do more than 4 or 5 special call outs during my call out day during a course of a year. And it's an hour to 2 or 3 hours each situation. So it isn't terribly onerous, but it is important that you are available for whenever you're called. Adaptability. This is not your world, as I said, and you got to be able to stretch with the fact that you're in a law enforcement covering and it's supposed to be there. Commitment. You just decide that this is going to be taking precedent over a lot of things. Certainly not your church, but if your church is demanding you too much of the time, then you got to make a decision. And it does take a little bit of courage. Occasionally, you're going to have to check yourself and say, hey, this is kind of, well, it's sort of dangerous a little bit. All right, furthermore, qualifications. When I came to Chico 32 years ago, I had a sense that I was given a job to be a priest to a congregation, but also a priest to the whole Chico community, because ministry just called for that, and Chico was pretty open-armed community. So that's what you're doing. You're extending your ecclesiastical coverage and your ministry to a whole region and all of its sense. If you have that heart for that, well, then you can be a chaplain. Of course, you got to have a valid driver's license and insurance. You're going to sometimes have to get yourself to the site, certainly down to the department. You're on your own. And the uniforms, as I mentioned, uniform shirts with patches and so forth, as your department authorizes them. Appropriate pants. We don't furnish you your pants. You get your own pants. But that is for the standard field B type uniform. I'm wearing right now some cargo pants that are black and are specially made and are really good and smart. The kind of waffle checkerboard belt that officers wear that's about 1.5 inches or 1.75 inches thick. All these things that are uniform type we get at downrange here in Chico. I don't know. That's probably where your outfit gets its uniforms too, because it's the big dog in the area. So for any of my chaplains, I'll take you down there myself and tell you what you got to get. Get your own black shoes that you can run in if you're in the field. So you got to be able to be mobile. If you got some nice patent leather shoes, don't wear them. We have certain jackets for comfort and even a ballistic sweater. We will get you a ballistic vest, and from the department get some used Kevlar filler that is still good, but it has gone past its warranty period, so the cops don't wear it, and we get to inherit their old vest materials. The department will issue you and authorize a purchase of a badge, presumably, and possibly hats like ball caps that say chaplain on there. Then possibly casual shirts. We've got a casual shirt here in Chico. I call it the rubber shirt because it's like putting on a wetsuit. It's hard to pull over yourself because somehow we chose one that was like that. And as I mentioned, the Class A suits for formal events like funerals or departmental meetings and so forth. You may also wish to get fanny packs. Your department may issue you radios. You might want an equipment bag or a duffel. Carry a small flashlight. Of course, we all have a little flashlight with our iPhones now. Good to get you some leather pat-down gloves. I've got a pair that I use, and I have them in my back pocket for when I got to go on the field. Maybe some latex gloves too. Waterless hand cleaner if you want. And you will need an ID. That is, you know, when I gave you all my request for your statistics, I wasn't clear about the last designation, and you all gave me your chaplain numbers, which was great. I was kind of looking for who in your department is in charge of you, but that's okay. It's good to know what your call sign is. I'm chaplain 7 with the Chico Police Department. We have numbers up to 15 or 16. All righty. Some important rules. You never use your chaplaincy to influence law enforcement. If you get pulled over, take the ticket. Unless they recognize you and offer you clemency. I mean, that's up to them. But you don't pull the hey, I'm a chaplain with you guys. Give me a break. You bear your own trouble. Bearing and discipline. You offer and receive respect when you're among the cops. Do not speak to the media. As a chaplain, you shut up. Unless you're specifically authorized by the department to say something, just don't say anything. You're not authorized. The cops have their own media liaisons and personnel who make official statements. But if you're a chaplain and you're in uniform and identified as a chaplain, in those cases, just defer and say the department has their own person to speak to this. And never publicly criticize officers. We don't spread any dirt around about our officers, even if it's true. And never question an officer's actions, but only privately. If there's something that's really bothering you, your liaison with your department can be your confidant and talk to them about it. And then they can choose whether there's something to do about it. Finally, confidentiality, and we're having a whole class on that. In fact, from police chaplaincy training and confidentiality, I learned a lot more than I ever learned in seminary. So we'll have that training. I'll defer that for now. Okay. There needs to be a legal case for chaplaincy, especially in this this lawsuit loving world where everything is challenged, especially to do with religion and church, especially Christianity. So there is a clear path to say the chaplaincy has, because we are an adjunct to a state-run or a governmentally run organization, and what are we doing in there with a cross on our symbol? And who do you guys think you are? Well, one is we have a secular purpose. We must have a secular purpose stated in the program, i.e., we're here for grief counseling or stress counseling or site support, something that's not religious in nature. It needs not to be your only purpose, it just is part of it. A sample statement is the volunteer police chaplains program is designated to provide non-denominational physical, mental, and spiritual support to department personnel and victims of crimes and tragedies within the county of Glenn or wherever you are, to enhance Glenn County's 24-hour service to the Glenn County community. You say that and you've got your secular purpose. It is religiously neutral. So it's not a religious purpose, which might try to convert anyone over to your religious system of beliefs. There may be religious elements to what we do, an expression of our own faith because of who we are, but that's not illegal. Okay, religious neutrality, meaning that the religious information you may carry is not brought forward unless it's asked for. You don't come into the situation with a religious message. The situation, therefore, may call it out and your response won't violate the law, but you don't come spring-loaded, ready to hit him with Jesus. You go when and where you're asked for. You are a volunteer corps, and your assignment is simply to be available. It's not a duty to impress our faith on anyone. We're non-denominational when we go out in the field. And of course, only ordained or licensed ministers of religious, as I said, are qualified. Avoidance of religious entanglement means we must avoid that. This means that there is no bias, no favoritism toward different types of officers or victims. We go to all, showing no bias. We will minister to someone of another faith, differing lifestyles, doing life in a way that we don't approve or that we know that God's word says against. That's okay. We're there for everybody. And as long as we can take that stance, we're fine. We're just fine. We have a right to be there. Finally, chaplaincy has a history. There is a history of chaplaincy in military, in hospitals, in legislative houses of government. It's the U.S. Supreme Court has its own chaplain, and law enforcement. There's long been the presence of chaplains to minister to the whole person. It's not just the body or the soul or the spirit, but the whole person. And all of our departments welcome this program. Only a few departments hold out against it, and for reasons I don't understand, because we're always ready to go there. Okay, any questions so far? I'm going to shift gears.
All good.
Okay. We're going to talk a little bit about police culture. The last course, number 14, is going to be on cop psychology, which will be deeper into this. But this portion of this training is what hooked me on chaplaincy. So take care. All right, you all have seen the movie RoboCop, or maybe you have anyway. RoboCop was a semi-mechanical man. He was a real cop who had a bad accident and had to have all this biometric stuff fitted onto him. So it added to his ability tremendous speed and great vision and all these kind of things that were artificially added to him. But he was a man. Inside of it all, there was a human being. That was a great kind of fun romp into fiction. But what if in this world we had robotic cops? The AI world has got to be getting on our nerves a little bit right now, because things can be done by artificial intelligence that is daunting to human abilities. If you had cops that were basically machines, and could go out and know every single statute, every single law, everything, could detect controlled substances from 40 yards away, could run faster than cars and catch them and issue tickets or wrap them up and bring them back to jail, and had no give. There was only violations in this robot cops world, and every one of us is violating something at some time or another. How would you all like a world that was run by robotic cops? I can't see you, so you're going to have to like say boo. I hope you're saying boo.
Crazy.
Would not be a good world.
No.
It wouldn't be a good world because there's no give. There's a reason for that. Cops are not big mean guys only looking to hurt people and wrap them up and get them, cuff them and stuff them. They have concern, and I've seen this again and again when I ride with the cops. The homeless people are folks with a mess of a life, and the cops are humbly dealing with them and knowing them by name and not going just to roust them out. Real human beings make better cops than machines because of human elements: compassion, judgment, humility, respect. They are different than a machine, and that difference makes a good cop. Now, machines are performing many tasks today that we used to perform in person. There are, I showed there this little police little chopper. Our Chico police, since I made this slide, we have more of these drones than you would believe, and there's a lot of aspects and usability to these, and they're chasing down bad guys in a fascinating way. But what I hate is those cameras at certain street corners where they catch you making a right turn safely against the light without stopping, and oh my gosh, here comes this ticket 10 weeks later, and it's expensive. So machines are coming, but hopefully they don't take up too much of our policing. At any rate, the word cop is not a bad word. Cop is not a disrespectful word. In fact, does any of you know what cop stands for? Speak up.
I've heard it, but I can't remember.
Constable on patrol. It used to be that a cop was somebody who had a certain portion of the city, several city blocks, and that he would patrol that every night. He knew every door, he knew every person in it, he knew who should be there, and he knew who should not be there. And he made sure that the people were secure, and they knew their cop. They knew their constable who was security to them. And that was what the cops were. Only human beings inspire confidence in the law. Only human beings make law friendly to people. We're better served because of the officer's humanity, his or her sensitivity, intangible and fragile spiritual, mental, emotional aspects of being a person makes them great law enforcement officers. But exactly what makes them great law enforcement officers, because they're human, also makes them vulnerable. They're not machines. Now, they use a lot of things to be able to protect themselves against what harms them. They are wearing body armor. They have mental armor, and they're trained in this. They have big equipment belt like a Superman. They wear guns and tasers. They take intense training on hand-to-hand combat and also shooting scenarios. They have this incredibly well-equipped patrol car with advanced communications. When I came on 25 years ago, they got everything by the radio, and they wrote it down on a little pad of paper so that they could get an address and go to it or try to remember what they'd heard. Today, the mobile data terminals in all the cars is a fully equipped computer system that brings them maps and background checks and can check a license on a car and give them back stuff. It's incredible. They are hooked up to the most electronically advanced stuff that you can imagine in the world. And that helps them, and it also keeps them safe. The police demeanor and code of honor and wearing proudly the authority of law. When a cop steps into a situation, he takes control and command of that situation, and he needs to right away for his protection. He uses all these things, and yet within all of that level of protection, they are all still humans. And what makes them valuable is also their vulnerability. And they are vulnerable even to death. Line of duty deaths is called LODD. You can remember that that little acronym. 2022, last year's officers' deaths. And by the way, you know what? That's wrong. I didn't change that one. I keep needing to change this slide. But there's 438, I believe, deaths last year. It's usually about 50% of these are accidental. Last year was something around 38% accidental, or excuse me, not accidental, felonious. This is made higher on the non-assault side because 83 were listed as COVID-caused deaths last year. COVID really flipped the percentages over the last few years because they considered it part of the job. So it wasn't separate and off the scale. It wasn't something that happened to them while they were on duty on that particular Tuesday, and yet they were there. Now, for the last 22 years, we've had 9/11 deaths, and every year 9/11 has been killing more officers. The reason being the cancer caused by the dust that they inhaled when they went to that scene gave them long-range, long-term health problems that still killing officers who responded to that scene. It's reduced every year by it being less and less there to die by it. 10 last year. The year before was like 18. So it's going down, and COVID will go down to nothing again too and stop skewing this thing. But in general, when you take those factors away, about 50% are accidental, just happened because of a car wreck or something, and 50% from felonious response. So among the 200 and some or whatever deaths in a particular year, about half of those was because a bad guy was after the cops. But beyond that, suicides of currently serving police officers are impossible to accurately report on because they are underreported typically. The police don't like to talk about suicides that they have experienced among their officers. The estimates are that there may be 3 times as many as the line of duty deaths. And that's a serious thing to consider. Why would cops be so prone to suicide? They are among the highest suicides in the country. The highest one is not cops, though. Does anybody know what profession has the highest number of suicides typically?
I heard it was dentist.
Say that again.
I heard it was dentist.
You're right. Did everybody hear? He said dentists.
Dentist.
It's not a joke, but the dentist laughing about that will say that's because we're always down in the mouth. But something about being a dentist causes some troubles. But police officers are like number 2 among all of these. At any rate, something's happening to them in their profession that it shouldn't be, and we need to help them. Police work causes very high numbers of divorces. They've been like number 2 or 3 in divorces. Early end of careers due to misconduct. They do something that gets them sent packing from the department. Alcoholism has characteristically been a problem. I don't know if it's still as high on there. Guys are more health conscious than when I got involved, but I think it's still problematical. Or drug abuse. Psychological disorders. Every single cop I know has stress-related diseases of some sort or another because it's such a high stress occupation. and many cops get seen by mental health professionals like my wife, who has seen several officers. And early death statistics. It used to be, and it's a lot better now, I think, but a cop would serve 30 years from, say, 20 years to 50 years of age. And on the average, in 5.5 years, they were dead. Their stress level for all of those years of occupation did such a job on their bodies and their minds that free falling afterwards was not a ticket to health, but just sort of the end of the line. I think it's a lot longer now, but it used to be really terrible. So the question remains, our police are selected from the top 3% of our population under whatever metrics you want to make them. They are superior in many ways. Now, how does it happen that these great people become subject to the devastation that we've recorded? When I first learned this, they made a drawing on the wall, sort of a monolith, and then putting cracks in it, if you can think of that without my putting it on the screen. Everybody joins into policing through altruism. That is a desire to make things changed for the better. And only the top 3% qualify for law enforcement. That is, they aren't in any trouble. They've always behaved well. The background checks always clear them. But a continuous aggressive environment and realities of police life can damage the person and can change him or her. Half of new cops do not last 10 years in the profession. Becoming cynical and cut off, they can become dangerous. They can become subject to their own occupation. The extremes of the occupation. Now, this was taught to me, and I thought it was an interesting terminology, psychological autopsy. Every time, let's say, somebody comes in on a death scene, there's a body on the ground. They don't know anything about it yet. Maybe they're dead, maybe they're not, but there's a body lying on the ground still. They have to go and assess what's going on, see that it's dead. Okay, we got a dead body here. I've got to find out the cause of death and also read through a lot of stuff that I see in this body. What do we got here? Is it a natural death? Does it seem to be accidental death? Is it suicide? Is it homicide? And what are the signs? And if it was a homicide, how much of this was the victim's fault? If the guy is a drug dealer and he got caught in his own violence and somebody slayed him, there's a lot of involvement on the part of the deceased as to his own dying. He wasn't suicidal, but he was somewhat the cause of his own demise. Or completely innocent. It's a 3-year-old girl who was caught in a drive-by shooting. She's absolutely innocent. And you make those assessments and it enters into your mind. You have to take like a big matrix, like think of a matrix, three-dimensional matrix in your mind. Where do you stuff this information about your deceased here on the ground? Accidental death, suicide death, age, sex, race. Are there tattoos? Do I see needle tracks? I check the color of the hair, the color of the eyes, general clothing of the person, evidences of a lifestyle, and general health characteristics. I'm taking in all that stuff and it's burying itself in the matrix of my mind, and it's going to stay there because this is a death. And so the importance and the high level of intensity that's involved with this autopsy of my mind is creating a really strong impression on my mind while I'm reading the science here, which is my job, and I can't run away from it. I'm the cop, and I've got to see what's going on with this body. I also have to assign a certain level of innocence or guilt, and it's a value that I will assign to it. This person had everything to do with their own death. They killed themselves, or they were killed by somebody who they got into a fight with, or they are completely innocent, or somewhere along that continuum. And those values transfer into a place in my mind, and the images do not leave that place. Now, as chaplains, we're not asked to go out and see horror. We will avoid that if we can. We'll see dead bodies and we'll even handle them. That's okay. As ministers, we kind of have that on board anyway. But if there's been a shotgun suicide, don't go in, and the cops will keep you away from it anyway. You don't have to bring that horror into your brain, but think about the officer who has to do an extensive study of the death scene with somebody's brain splattered all over the room. It's not small. It makes a huge impact on them, and it stays there. Now, there's another problem with policing, and that's a sense of a lack of accomplishment. Recidivism, of course, means that somebody who's been incarcerated returns to crime and has to be arrested again and tried again and sent again back to the big house. 80% of all cases typically are resulting in recidivism. In other words, what am I doing as a cop? I've seen this guy before. I thought I put him away. He's out early, and he's just done it again. What was he out for 3 weeks? And he's back to his old habits. And here we go. What am I doing this job for? I don't even know what I'm doing it for. Several years ago, the wisdom of the state legislature passed AB 109, which except for the most violent criminals, our criminals don't remain in prison or in jail. The big house sends them down to jail. Jail sends those guys out on the street. They return to the street in a short time. And now, of course, in very recent years, and with this sort of activist DA situation, they won't even charge people for serious crimes, and they come right back out again. Now that makes cops feel absolutely futile. What am I doing? Am I doing any good at all? What's the point? For cops, there also is no closure. They're forward looking. They've got to go get today's criminal, and they don't know what happened. I arrested a guy. I filled out the evidence. I attended court and gave my testimony, did all the paperwork, and I go on to the next case. What happened to that guy? I can't stop and think about it, but I don't know. It was intense. It ate up part of my life, and now I don't know what's happened to that guy. Also, a lack of any positive outcomes. Crime continues. It gets worse. People keep getting hurt. And what's the use of my job anyway? It can be a serious issue. Now, Mark's sitting next to me here, and I'm not going to put him on the spot, but he was a San Diego County Sheriff's officer. And so far, am I hitting it in the gold?
Very much so.
Okay.
Very much. You're right on track.
This is real life for police officers in their chosen field. Now I'm going to give you guys, I hope it's a treat. This is for y'all to just sit back and enjoy. This is a song I wrote and played, and hopefully that.
Peter, I'm not hearing anything.
And flat blue goes out to sea.
Did you say something?
I'm sorry, I'm not hearing anything if you're playing something.
I am, and thank you for saying that. Okay, let me see if I can work this out so I can do this. I tell you what, I'm going to take the TV offline just for the doing of that, and we'll go back to this. Just a minute. This should get to you now. Having more than usual technical difficulties. Okay, hang on. Oh, you know what? Just a second. I'm gonna get, excuse me. I have to put this on. Here we are. That good?
We can see it. No music yet.
No music? Okay. All right, no music yet. Just a moment. Why not? You'll be able to hear it. But what you should be able to do and what you really can do are always two different things. Hang on. Well, maybe I can't. Oh, well, it's not. The end of our time, we'll see if we can get it out there. But in the meantime, okay. Anyway, I wrote a song. Let's continue. Officers and ministers. There's an interesting thing about officers and ministers, which we might not think is obvious, because it is really curious as to the fact that we are doing much the same thing. Come on, baby. Why would that do that? Sorry about that, guys.
Gotta love technology.
You really do. You really, truly do. Give me a second here. I have no idea why that's doing it. Listen, I'm going to give this a 5-minute break. Can we take a 5-minute break? We'll just be online. But until I get this thing to run again, just going to go on a break.
So you want us to log off or
I don't know what. No, don't do that. Just stay with it. You can just mute. Okay. It was going on. Yeah. Give me a couple of minutes here, and I'm gonna stop my video, and or else you can talk to Mark, who's a good friendly guy. Talk to him about being a law enforcement officer. Okay.
So what I found in my couple years of being with the Butte County Sheriff, I had a ride along. We had a call that came out on a suspect that had been locked up in a trailer and stole a gun, and everybody was in position, and it was a holdout till the very end. And we went on a run for the rest of the officers. And he says, "Hey, Chaplain, you want to go with me?" And I said, "Sure." And I'm telling you what, that guy unloaded on me from the time I got in the car to time I went back to the sheriff's office, got some more radios, got some more batteries, and then went and got food. And as an officer, it was just that. I mean, that was my first experience as, he just needed somebody to talk to. And I was just ears, and trying to hear what he had to say. So I can see where it's very profitable to go on a ride along, and the more that I get to know the guys in the sheriff's office, they just kind of warm up to you. It gets easier. But showing yourself friendly, I think, is the biggest thing. Just being there.
It is, and as Bishop Hansen said before, I worked for San Diego County Sheriff's Department as a deputy sheriff for almost 30 years with that department, and I worked for another department prior to that, so almost 36 years in law enforcement. there are some officers out there that are standoffish, that I noticed when we had chaplain ride-alongs and things like that. Not really sure if they could trust the chaplains or whatever. But eventually, as you said, they started to warm up to them. And I have several friends that have been law enforcement chaplains, obviously Bishop Hanson, plus some other folks that I've known for quite some time. And it's definitely something that's needed for all the departments out there, for all the officers. And that's part of the reason why I'm starting to go through the process, so I can go ahead and be out there and hopefully with my experience in law enforcement, be able to talk to some of these guys and gals and help them through these difficulties sometimes that they experience.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
I am the chief of technical difficulties today. And let me just reduce my, okay, never mind. I'm just looking to get, but it's just a blackout out there. That's nuts. Oh, here it is. Okay. That's what I was looking to get back up. All right. No, that one. All right. Now, hopefully. I can bring us back on. Okay. Now share screen again. That's it. This was my last eye opener when I got into training. The similarities of what officers and ministers are there to do is amazing, because you think we're in a completely two different fish bowls. We have nothing at whatever to do with each other. But listen to this. We're frustrated at not being able to help everyone. Let's see. I think yeah, wait a second. Yeah. That was the last page. I skipped. We both uphold laws and values that are decaying around us rapidly. Think about that. We're both expected to be strong pillars of our communities, but are often ridiculed instead of revered. So the expectation on us to be strong pillars at the same time being undermined and called names. We have that common experience. People that need our help often mock us instead. Too often we're called too late to bring any kind of positive closure to a situation. You all had that ministerial problem. The communities we both serve seldom listen to our advice. We're never off duty. A pastor is always a pastor. A cop is always a cop, whether they're on duty or off duty. We may take the uniform off, but we still represent and live the role. And you're known for who you are professionally. The community treats us as though we represent every bad minister, priest, or officer in the world. Any bad news on those comes back to reflect on you. We're both called upon to do things that nobody else wants to do. Both law enforcement and clergy pay high emotional dues in fulfilling our charges. People lie to us, but they expect us to always tell the truth. People have no clue what officers or clergy really do on a daily basis, yet they can still strongly criticize us for what we do. I'm stop and make a reflection. I once had a friend who was had a 13-year-old son, and he asked his son, do you have an aspiration for what you want to be as a grown-up? And he says, yeah, Dad, I know what I want to be. And he said, oh, great. Well, what do you want to be, you think? I want to be a garbage man, Dad. A garbage man? You want to collect the garbage, drive the trucks around? He says, yeah, Dad. He says, well, why would you want to do that? I mean, you're 13, you could do anything in the world. That's what you choose? He says, yeah, man, because they only work one day a week. What this kid had observed, of course, is they only turn up on Tuesdays. and therefore that's their work day. Be cool to have a 1 day a week job, and then you could be playing all the rest of the time. That's what people see about us. We are working 1 day a week, right? Sunday, and we don't do much else. That's just us. So therefore, not much response. The cops don't do anything except when they show up at our place to give us trouble. And that's the way people treat them. People always tell us why laws or rules don't apply to them. We struggle against the them versus us mentality. We have many acquaintances, but few friends. You all kind of vibe to that. Cops as well as ministers are kind of lonely guys. We have a lot of interaction with people, but friends is hard to make. We both encourage and support others when we ourselves are in desperate need of support and encouragement. The highs are very high and the lows are very low. We're frustrated at not being able to help everyone. We watch those we helped return to their previous choices. That recidivism happens at all levels. No matter what we do, we're always going to lose some of them. We feel that we are the only ones who care about right and wrong. Finally, the clergy focus on the spirit, ignoring maybe other parts of life. Police officers deal with the physical and the mental, often refusing to believe that spiritual healing may be necessary to the people they're dealing with. We need each other's. This is something for our officers. We need each other. Your officer needs his or her family. They need community. They need interconnectedness. Isolation is death to a police officer. Every healthy relationship outside the police department keeps our officers grounded in real life and gives them a perspective that is better for them than the constant negatives that they get in their profession. So chaplains have an incredible and wonderful opportunity to be a link up from outside the department into the very inside of the department, to bring them approval and recognition. We're saying from the community, we come in, we love you, we appreciate what you do. And that's a healing to them every time they see it and they hear it. As we also know, naturally the Beatles sang this, love is the answer. It's also an imperative that you understand what is going on with loved ones. So we step in and we give them love. Alrighty, with all that technical difficulty stuff, trying a lot of stuff at once today. Have we got any questions, gentlemen? I'm gonna go back to our, excuse me. Go back to ours. No. Can't believe sometimes what this thing does. Okay. Stop share there. That's what I want to do. There we're back. Okay. Back in 1997 or 8, I was asked to be to help the Chico Police put together a chaplaincy program. They didn't ever have one before that. And the captain who was asking me to do this cited to me a situation. He says, I've just been experiencing something that happened in Reading. One of their officers had a 14-year-old son who was much loved by the family and by the whole department. Everybody embraced this Reading officer's family and his son. And the son was caught smoking marijuana one time, and the dad took him aside and really gave him the riot act, told him just exactly where the sun don't shine, and you disgraced me and the family and my profession, and he gave him the whole talk. Well, the kid went and found his dad's gun and shot himself to death. And that hit the department real hard. And he said, and the captain said, if that department did not have a chaplaincy already in place and ready to take these cops on day and night, in and out, and spend time with them, a lot of time, he said, I don't know what would have happened to that group of people. they needed those chaplains real bad, and they did it. They did a great job. The Reading chaplaincy has been a very wonderful program. He says, when that happens to our department, he says, I'm not saying if, but when something like that of that magnitude hits our department, if we don't have a chaplaincy in place, we are in for it. Certainly a police suicide, as among other things, can hit a department like a bomb going off inside the walls. It shatters everything, and it takes away the certainty that everybody depends on each other to continue to do what they do. Things that happen to a department can be very rending, and they're usually pretty dramatic. So our part in that is essential. It's important. It must be something that is taken seriously. And the cops, as you are all finding in your departments already, are very ready to take you in and enjoy your participation with their program, because they know they need it. They will not say so personally. They're going to act tough and be all, throwing F-bombs around all the time, and see if you can handle it. That's okay. We just roll with that. But when it comes right down to it, once they've accepted your chaplain program, they will defend it, and they will love on you for every minute you spend with them, and act like they don't need it, but they need it, and they want it, and they want you. So anyway, I bless your programs. This is 4 different agencies being trained at once, and I'm really jazzed to do this, and only sorry that I didn't get to play that thing for you. Maybe I can try one more time, and if it doesn't work, we'll just shut it down. But we won't get offline. We'll keep the Zoom open. We'll take about a 10-minute break so you all can go to the bathroom too, or whatever you need to do. And I will try to make this thing work. But in any case, class 2 will begin again at past. Okay.
Hey, Peter, this is Danny. I just one real quick question. We don't have to necessarily answer it right now, but are we going to talk about, you mentioned in the beginning that our role is, kind of religious neutrality, if you will, right? We're not pushing our beliefs on people and etc. Are we to pray with people? Are we to offer that? Are we to just back off from those beliefs? Like, are we going to talk about that in a different session? And if we are, that's fine, and we'll just wait.
No, I'm happy to answer that right now. And yes, there is going to be further talk about it. Situations like the city council meeting, where you go in and offer up a prayer that they're asking you to open their meeting with a prayer. As a chaplain, when you're uniformed, you're representing the police department. If you go in your other clothes as pastor so-and-so, you do what you want to do. It's a free country. But representing the police department, you don't represent your church and your dictums. You are representing God in a general way, and you don't dishonor what you believe in by couching it in terms of, oh Lord, Heavenly Father, so-and-so and so-and-so, bless the city, guide the discussions. You're talking to a person. You can call him Father or Dear God, and at the end, in your holy name, Amen. You haven't gone religious specific there, and nobody can object to that. That doesn't exclude anybody. So there are situations they're involved with chaplaincy in front of the world, representing the chaplaincy, that you keep it religiously unspecific, but it's still very much faithful, and you know who you're talking to. Now again, as I say, if you go in as Pastor Joe and you're wearing your suit or your day clothes, no holds barred, that's fine. But if you're representing the department, you come in without that specificity, and yet praying is absolutely okay. And you can go into a situation like a death in a home, and the people are obviously religious. The house is full of Catholics, and their mom died, and they're all weeping, and you can offer that. Say, would you like me to offer a prayer? And they say, yes, very much so. Well, that's an open door. I mean, you're not violating anybody. They're happy to receive it, but you asked them. I've had suicides where the spouse or the ex-spouse is present, and I say, would you like me to pray? And they say, no, we're atheists. Okay. Well, they can't stop me from praying silently, but I'm going to respect their wishes. And then again, there's no action against it. We've had complaints for chaplains being too forceful with their spiritual wisdom. A lot of times, and we will talk about this, a lot of times, if you can't improve on silence, don't. Sometimes your silence and your presence is enough. We think we got to talk a lot in order to be valuable in these situations, but a lot of the time our presence is amazing. It's the presence of God we're bringing with us, and just the fact we're there and caring is huge for people in these situations. So would you agree with that, Rick? Dave?
Yeah,
You've got a lot of experience.
the retired military chaplain, there were a lot of instances where I had to be non-specific, but still prayed. Yeah.
And God knows who he is, so we don't have to defend him. He's okay at the end of the day. So right, but yeah, if you, let's say I'm in a Christian home, they're very open to a Christian prayer. I'm going to pray over the dead body with Christian prayer. I haven't violated anybody. So the rule is basically, I think you can see it in a general public sense. We represent God in general, and in a place where we're not invited to pray, we don't pray out loud. But then if it's a Christian context and they're very open to that, and clearly so, no holds barred, bring it all, and nobody can complain. But as I say, some complaints have been lodged. There was a special meeting we were presenting to police and their wives to something as chaplains, and one of our chaplains began the meeting with a prayer that, we pray this in the holy name of Jesus, amen. I mean, not a bad prayer, but we had a Jewish wife of an officer who came afterwards and through her husband said, I was really ready to be completely part of this whole thing, but that prayer made me understand I'm separate from that. I can't participate in this. Now, whether or not she really had to go there, we could debate, but being sensitive to the fact that some people may not be in that place, we're not required to go full faith on everybody and see if we can get them speaking in tongues and get the water out and let's baptize you right here and now. That's not our job. We go where we can, and we're having a great impact. Why push the limits when we don't have to? Okay.
No, Peter, I've found out that in our Butte County, we can pray according, of course, as Pastor Hall, as our head chaplain, he always prays in Jesus' name, and everybody's with that. So that's just how kind of we do it at Butte County, unless we're at
what context?
Something else.
You in among all the cops there, or all the sheriff's deputies, or?
Yeah, when we do like memorials, or in the SO, there is, I mean, we're allowed to pray that way, and they're not objected to that at all.
We're open to it, sure. Well, that's great, and that's great. If there's been permission level, we respond to the permission level that's been there, and that's basically
okay.
Yeah. And yeah, Chico's a little different than all your cities. It's a big community, and it has a lot of elements in it, and we just don't want to lose peas off the knife. So we're not afraid of talking about Jesus ever. We don't want to offend unnecessarily, so we take
right.
All righty, I'm going to stop recording this meeting for the present, and